And welcome back after the short break. I have a privilege to have on stage Bogdan Onyshchenko, a professional Scrum trainer from Scrum.org. You run a podcast, right, Bogdan?
Yeah, I do. It's called Plus 50 Agility, where we discuss with a number of guests from the agile world different topics about what being agile and doing agility means. And actually, we have quite a few releases planned for the end of this year, including one where we speak with Mike Coyne, one of the guys who have co-signed the Agile Manifesto. So if you are looking what to do on your way to work or to the gym and listen for something brief, then I suggest you might consider subscribing.
Awesome. I will put a link to your podcast in the Slack channel, so you can take a look after that. And the podcast is available in English and Russian, right?
So far, yes, but I promise I will do one in Polish as well.
Okay, so we look into that. And your talk is about Lean UX. I look into this and it's quite curious because you said that Lean UX practices are shared between people, different profession, people with no profession at all, and even animals. Is that right?
Yeah, that is completely true. As I hope I will be able to convince you in the next 15 minutes.
Okay, so the stage is yours and I'm leaving you with the public.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to try and persuade you about, at the very least, being curious about Lean UX and ideally trying to adopt it yourself. So without further ado, I guess I'll start with just a brief explanation about what Lean UX is and what's the primary purpose of it. So in the first place, Lean UX may be called a system for an approach, a framework for designing products, for designing systems with an end user and end customer in mind that are very customer centric. And the primary objective is to make sure that whatever you are doing, the customer is going to be happy in the end of the day. And there are three big books written by Josh Seiden and Jeff Gothelf that describe the approach. If you are interested, you can read them through, pick up many details and both strategical and tactical nuances of the implementation with some good tips. I recommend it highly. But the core of it is that in every single design process that is out there now, there are three key steps that should be repeated often enough, and whatever knowledge, experience, and data you dig, you mine, you learn from doing some small experience, you can utilize to move forward in a better way, in a smarter way, designing the better products, better systems for your users, for your customers. So first of all, of course, you have to think about what's the current state of things, how you are working, what's happening, what you want to achieve. Then you make usually some form of prototype or rapid chip disposable experiments to validate your assumption, test your hypothesis. And then when you get some real feedback from your users and customers, you can surely tell that, okay, this either worked out or not worked out. The data is here to prove or reject your assumptions. And then you just take the next step. But the trick is that you have learned something along the way and you are more likely to make a correct judgment and the best decision. And this is fairly common to everyone, despite the profession, running small, low risks experiments that don't involve big investments, that are quick in time and that are less risky, rather than, you know, putting a bet on something big that might not happen or might not turn out too well. And this type of thinking is very common, as I already said, and usually we start thinking when there is a certain problem that have risen and makes us or our users, our customers uncomfortable. So today I would like to pitch you two simple examples from the real world, way outside our usual IT niche, and something that is nearby, to display that this kind of mindset is common, and many other people have utilized the same principles and ideas. And I hope that it can persuade you to try this at your own work, whatever you're doing right now. So the first example I would like to talk about is the one that happened slightly more than a decade ago in one of the hospitals in Wales, United Kingdom. Through the span of several months, the number of fatal cases in this hospital, in children's emergency care unit, was skyrocketing, and naturally it has triggered public inquiry and investigation why so many children were dying. And despite that, the whole crew of doctors that were working in this unit primarily were convinced it's rather bad luck that struck them than anything else related to what they do and how they work. The thorough and independent investigation was conducted, and the inquiry actually that was based on videotaping the work of those doctors have identified that there was a very high number of handoffs. The positioning of both staff and equipment was suboptimal. There were many cases of miscommunications, and as you know, if you are in the ER, you want everything to be crisp and clear. So talking about bad user experience, people dying is probably the most horrific example. So medics decided, after reflecting on themselves and understanding that indeed something went terribly wrong, they decided that needed help. And surprisingly, they have reached out to someone you might not expect at the first glance, and it was the pit stop crew from Formula One Ferrari team. Because what those guys do is they do a pit stop where, as you can see, about 20 people are within a couple of seconds able to perfectly coordinate between themselves, use nonverbal communications. Their positioning is perfect, their actions are coordinated, and the result, as you can see on some marvelous videos, is just the full car being fueled, re-geared, and checked in just a couple of seconds. So when the guys from the Ferrari team have watched the videotapes, they suggested a number of improvements, and you can see here on the right is the real picture that they have drawn and suggested to the doctors to use based on their inspection. So the doctors, as a result, changed the marking of tools and equipment. They changed their positioning. They changed their how they move and how they communicate, both verbally and non-verbally during the procedures. And as a result, within next couple of months, the overall numbers of severe cases and lethal cases that had happened in the hospital were significantly reduced. And this practice has also been shared between many hospitals in fellow countries in UK, both in Scotland and England. Plus, there were reports about Italian clinics that also do that, and there were even a couple of TED Talks. That's how I learned about this thing in the first place. So all in all, doing rapid experimentation, thinking about how you can improve adjusting small things can lead to some tremendous result. And if we are speaking about a good user experience, then staying alive when you get into the hospital is certainly the one that you expect to happen. And the second example, I would like to show about some out-of-the-box thinking and rapid experimentation and small tweaks that happens is the problem with KPI optimization for beggars. Probably you have all seen one near the church, near the train station, or somewhere near the bus station, where they just are a few dollars short from having the tickets to go back to their home city, and they are desperately asking for your charitable donation. To be fair, to just keep a few things clear, I would not like to endorse it in any way, because number of investigations that were conducted during the last decade that I have researched suggest that it's a multi-million dollar industry in many post-Soviet countries, including my native Ukraine, also Russia, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, and others. It's heavily criminalized, where there are either corrupt politicians or police officers that are covering up for the business and getting their cut of the profit. But still, the beauty of product management actually allows us to abstract and to learn, extract the lessons from pretty much anywhere, and just understanding the idea and utilizing it everywhere is something that I really marvel on, being a product manager myself. So those people that are asking for your money on the streets near the churches and train stations all have personalized KPIs, and the KPI is solely money. So in the end of the day, depending on how much money they collect, they actually need, to collect a certain amount in order to get the shelter, get the food, get some treatment in case they need something. Because if they're not, bringing home the bacon, then whoever manages that is not really going to do them any favors for free. So how do they do it? How do they make sure that the money is flowing in? Well, actually, that's quite the system. And the few rules to just point out are that there are sweet spots, like I've mentioned before, train stations, churches, some crossings, subway stations where many people are going in and out, and they are not really in time to stop and think and consider what they are doing or who they are donating money to. And this kind of sweet spots see very often a new type of beggar every day. So an old lady who is asking for money for her child to get into a hospital and get a surgery may perform well near the church, but for example a retired military guy who has lost his limb is not very likely to get money there. He better stands on the train stations, subway stations, and stuff like this, where there is non-religious mass of people that's happening, right? And even depending on the time of the day of the week, and special holidays or any special occasions, some event happening in the city, or someone just important coming, there might be different types of rotations in between those spots, in between the people that are asking for your money, to make sure that after each iteration, the amount of money that's being collected has been properly calculated, and that the idea is to maximize the profit, in the end of the day, get as much money. So again, very simple, thinking about maximizing the value that you are getting, then conducting short, very cheap and very fast experiments, and then adjusting and tweaking the process, tweaking your system to how the whole bloody thing works, and making sure you get the most out of it. And actually, as I have 30 seconds remaining before the Q&A part, I had one more example, but when I've learned that I have only 15 minutes. I ran a number of experiments to see if I can manage to tell 3 small stories in 15 minutes, and I couldn't, so I had to cut it off. And here's one more example, of lean thinking and experimentation right here for you. That is about it. I hope that you have learned something new and interesting, maybe even inspired to get a glimpse of what Lean UX is. So that's kind of the end of my story. If you would like to subscribe to the updates for the podcast, here you have the QR codes that you could navigate that will take you to YouTube and Facebook pages. And thank you very much for your attention. If there are any questions, I would be delighted to answer those.
Thank you very much, Bogdan. We have a comment, maybe rather than question. And the comment is, Bogdan, thanks for bringing another example that cross-domain collaboration can bring amazing improvements. So you shared that you ran a lot of experiments. If you have a tiny story of cross-domains experiment, I think we'll be delighted to listen one more.
Sure. I guess one from the very recent experience of mine, as I have been working in the gambling industry, and we have been building the KYC or Know Your Customer system for one of the European markets. Of course, I'm not allowed to mention the country or even the client, but the idea was that we were trying to find out the probable causes for people to launder money through the gambling system, where they make many frequent deposits and then they just withdraw money before any verification can be done, in this way making the money legal, because the company has suffered significant losses because of it in the past, and we wanted to make sure that we incorporate everything that we have learned before. So we have teamed up. We actually hired consultants from both the financial part of the industry that deals with money laundering and typical cases, in that exact country, to tell us why people are laundering money, what are the patterns and what happens, because we are just, a bunch of IT guys building the product, having some domain experience, but not everything. And what was really interesting, we were able to, infiltrate on the forums where the people talk about gambling and share their stories, something locally in that given country. And we have actually found a few descriptions in the native language of the guy who was trying, teach others how to cheat the system, how to rip the rewards, the bonuses from the games, and before you get recognized and just run away with money or launder something. So by doing that, by asking the right questions and being picky and interested and nosy, we I hope saved us some money and incorporated the experience from other domains. So since then, as a good practice, the company decided that when we do anything related to regulations, governments, or KYC, we hire someone from within that can suggest us some improvements, bring local perspective, help explain the culture and stuff like this, because it's extremely valuable. Whatever you are doing, you can't do the perfect product on your own without involving many different opinions. That's just gut feeling I have over the years.
Absolutely. Can't agree more. Thank you very much for sharing this. Will you be available on Slack channel or Gather, Bogdan, after your talk?
Yeah, absolutely. If there are questions, I'll be delighted to answer.
Great. So I've put the link to the chat dedicated to Bogdan's talk in the MindPing channel. So please go there and ask. The Bogdan will be notified that you have a question, or just jump into the Gather, because this is the lunch time. So you can eat a lunch together using Gather platform. Thank you very much. That was awesome, Bogdan.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day and an interesting conference. Cheers.